Welcome to Positive Philter with your host, Philip Wilkerson, a podcast that focuses on friends, family, health, and career, with a little self-help along the way. Please join me in this journey for self-improvement, and I hope what I have to share will make you a better person, thus making the world a better place. I hope you enjoy the show. I hope you enjoy the show. Hello, people of the world. It's Philip Wilkerson back with another episode of Positive Philter. I'm joined by a special guest. Everyone's a special guest. I'm joined by Kristin Frigeli. Now, it took me forever to do that because I did not know her when she was Chris. You were not. What was your maiden name, Kristin?
Yeah, Kristin Helgerson is when we.
That's
met.
What it was. Yeah, that's what it was. Helgerson. So we met in a long time ago, and I'm going to go on a tangent, and then I'm going to let my guests introduce themselves. But if you've been a listener to the podcast or know my educational journey, you know that my first job out of college was at a school for children called Alternative Paths Training School. It was in that school that I met such amazing people, including Kristin. And I've had a lot of the actual, I guess, alum or people, we call ourselves alum of that school, on my podcast. Mike Idris, Rashad, it was a really Hillard, Justin. This was a very special time. This was my first job out of college. And so because of that, I've met so much amazing people. And one of those people is our guest today, Kristin. So before we get into the episode, Kristin, give a little bit of overview who you are, and we'll go right into it.
Yeah, thank you so much, Philip, for having me here. I'm so excited to see you and chat with you. It has been so long. And like you said, way back to APTS time, I was just out of grad school. I think you were just out of undergrad, maybe.
Yeah.
So we were both just starting on our professional journeys of life. And look how far we have come since then. So APTS, that was my first job out of grad school. I am a board certified behavior analyst, BCBA. For short. So my education and training was all in psychology and behavior analysis. I went to George Mason for my undergrad in psychology. And while I was there, I discovered the field of behavior analysis. I worked with families with kids with autism and did in-home behavior therapy. That's how I was totally exposed to the field. I fell in love with it. I fell in love with the science and what an impact it could make on these children's lives, the family's lives, everyone's lives. So I decided to go for my master's in that. So I did my master's down at Florida Tech right after undergrad. So I got my master's in applied behavior analysis, became board certified after graduation, and came back to Virginia. And that's where we met. And that's where we worked together at that amazing school. And so much was learned there. Looking back, it was a wild time. Everyone was kind of fresh out of school, learning a lot of hands-on experience. I completely, in hindsight, admit and talk to other people in the same boat about being such a know-it-all coming out of school, and especially fresh out of grad school, thinking that, I just have spent 2 full years studying and reading and memorizing things and learning all the research, and I know what I'm doing. And what a shock that is into the real world when you get into a real life experience. So it was an amazing experience. I look back on it and think, wow, if I had that job right now, how different it would be, or what things I would do differently. But it was a great experience. And like you said, we met so many people that are some of my best friends still to this day. And it was an amazing time. So I still am a BCBA. I still am a board certified behavior analyst. Since then, Virginia created a license in the state. So I'm also a Virginia state licensed behavior analyst. That happened about 10 years ago now, 10 or 12 years ago at this point. So when I first graduated, there was not a license in the state of Virginia. So that's a big change in our field. So that's who I am and what I do in terms of background.
That's a great overview. And a mom, a wife, all those other things too integrated.
Yes.
And,
yes. Business owner, mom.
All that. Yeah. You were just doing the tip of the iceberg of all the things.
I just got in the education stuff. I have 2 kids. I think they're really close to your boys' age because I know Kurt and Bennett are almost the same age. Yeah. And then my daughter is 6.5. So I think they're right on.
Close.
Right
very
in
close.
There.
Very close. Very close.
Yeah.
I'll say this right now. One, I would not do that job again. I was always jealous of the behavior. I was a behavior facilitator. I don't remember, but I was always jealous. I was like, man, they come in, they tell us to do some behavior modification and bounce, and then we get our tail whipped. You know what I'm saying? like I'm like, it was like, you know, did this student put his hands by your side or something? I was like, I don't know. I'm getting my ass whooped. You know what I'm saying? But that job was definitely, I call it career purgatory, because it was in APTS that, like, I was like, I need to get an advanced degree.
That's where you decided to go. Yeah.
I was like, shout out to all the people that had a master's already. I was like, I guess, you know, the next step in my career is I need to get a master's. So
it definitely showed.
Young people shut the wave, you know.
So many people, everyone either stayed in education from there or went a completely opposite way, or, you know, it definitely like weeded people out to say like, yes, I'm going to want to be a teacher, or I just want to get a higher degree in this field, or nope, this is not for me, I'm out.
Yeah, and you saw that track. Like a lot of people, either I went to get a counseling degree, so I wanted to stay in education. Some people went further in special ed and then went and left and stayed in special ed. Some people actually did the same ABA as you, you know, like Rashad and that. So it definitely changed. So one of the things I want to jump forward to, because I think the main thing I want to talk about is like how this has informed you as a coach. Talk a little bit about your coaching, the coaching experience and all that, because I want to get into how, while you're doing ABA, this is kind of applied to everybody. So go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. So in all of my years of providing ABA services, I was doing majority of it in home. And, you know, most of the time I was working with moms specifically in the home, just because, you know, generally they were the ones that were in home when their kids were there, when we were doing in-home direct services. So I had kind of a firsthand look, even before I became a mom, of working directly with so many different kinds of moms, all different sorts, but I really saw their struggles, and not even just as a mom of special needs individuals this is the population I specifically worked with and started my career with, but just seeing how they benefit so much from the 5 to 10 minutes that I could take at the beginning of every session to pay direct attention to them, to talk to them, to not walk in the door and say, I'm here for your kid. I'm here to do behavior therapy with your child. You're here to, you know, I'm here to tell you what to do. So I really came to acknowledge that taking those minutes, and I, you know, told all my technicians that worked for me or anyone else that I was able to train, that time is so important to starting a session off right. You're not just pairing with the child, but you really have to show the individual who's with the child most of the time who you are, and that you care, and that you can help them. In our field, we kind of always use the term parent training. And over the years, people have kind of changed that a little bit to more parent coaching, or using it differently, because parent training sounds a little harsh when you're in there to tell the parents to train, especially as a 20-something with no kids, right? That was a difficult position to be in, and say, I'm gonna be your parent trainer. Maybe behavior analyst, trainer is better to describe that. But so I always kind of had a soft spot for moms, again, even before I became a mom, of just how much they could benefit from a little bit extra attention and the coaching method. Not to say I'm here to like teach you a class and you sit there and listen to me and I'm going to teach you this, but a really more like hands-on approach of a compassionate model of learning more about them, and they're hearing their struggles. And sometimes I would be the only person that maybe they would have a chance to talk to outside of their kids, or maybe husband in the morning or late at night. And just those handful of minutes really made a difference in not only their mood, what I could tell, but then also I considered it, part of the treatment, because if they were more open to then listening to my, advice and take part in the parent training that we, would like to go forward with, then that was great. Then that was a win. So if I could kind of, again, pair with them, make them feel, listened to, cared for. And if that was going to make them a better mom when I left, then that was 100% worth it. Even if it was, again, 10, 5, sometimes 15 minutes at the beginning of the session to like hear all the struggles and just say, what is going on? How can I help? That is what I'm ultimately here for. And in applied behavior analysis, that's our number one goal, is to create socially significant changes, and they are individualized. So whatever that mom is struggling with, the child is struggling with, that whole household is struggling with, that's what we want to target, not what I, the behavior analyst, the licensed person, thinks they need to work on, because what I think doesn't always lead to actually, meaningful change in their household, whether it's for cultural reasons, religious reasons, just kind of household reasons, just, personal preferences. And that's something that I learned over the years also, not just coming straight out of grad school, reading from the books and do this, but also taking a more compassionate model and really attending to the family's values of what is important to, to us. It's important for our child to be able to sit at a dinner table with a family, or no, that does not matter whatsoever. I don't care. Let's not waste our time targeting that. Right. So it's a whole spectrum of what was important to families. So just really understanding that. And that's what I've tried to impart on my supervisees that I've had over the years, of really listening to what is important to your clients, because that is your ultimate goal. Yes, to create behavior change, but you're not being effective if you're not making it socially significant to their world, not just to the greater society. So working with moms so much, working with in-home direct services so much. And then when I had my kids, I already had my business. I started my own company in 2011. So I was already doing, running my own business stuff. I kind of took a step back and just did more admin, managing stuff and supervising when my kids came around. And we moved from Northern Virginia down here to Hampton Roads. So I lowered my direct caseload already. And I was just really searching for what else can I do with this background? Behavior analysis is such an amazing science, and I know it can be applied to, and it is applied to so much more than special needs population. That's what people know it mostly by, you hear it more, autism, or, special ed at all, but it is, science of human behavior. It has nothing to do with, or it's not only to do with special ed. And so I really, when my kids were a little bit younger, I sat down and I literally made a list of things that I love to do, things that I could maybe do with behavior analysis, and then things that I do not want to do at all. And I was trying to really stay true to that list of what I don't want to do, because I had dabbled in a lot of different things, whether it was supervising behavior technicians directly, whether it was supervising in grad school, practicum students, having direct employees, having kind of all kinds of different things, schools and home. And I kind of made a list of I just didn't enjoy that. I'm at a stage where I can maintain my business and I'm comfortable with saying, but I want to do this personally. I don't want to do that at all. And I don't want to compromise my interests and values for, what may become easier in our field. It's so used to being, asked for all the time. Our field is growing, but it is always in demand. So I kind of was going from a shift of, always being asked for this in-home stuff to saying, what else can I try and sell? You really have to try and sell myself for this other thing. And somehow what popped in my head was life coaching. And I don't know what your first thought of when you hear about life coaching, but I kind of had a negative view. It's kind of this kind of negative connotation when I heard the term life coaching. It wasn't really based on anything other than judgment of what you imagine maybe the typical life coach online is trying to sell their fantastic life. But I really thought that it could merge that the goal of life coaching to improve people's lives with behavior analysis, the true science of behavior. So that's kind of where I began trying to put those two things together. And it just kind of ran with it.
Excellent.
Yeah.
One of the things I thought about is definitely, someone that put all their time in counseling, and then you get LPCs and LCSW, that when you hear life coaching, you're like, oh, that's somebody that's just going to non-degree, just do what they want and say, I'm a life coach.
Exactly.
And then as I've noticed that as I work with leaders, there is some, accredited ones like the ICF. And then, they combine that. But I think I've seen a lot of these people, a lot of coaches, which I'm really thinking they get the accreditation, but they still combine it. So I've seen a lot of ICF coaches that combine that coaching certification with maybe career counseling. And so that's, I'm very similar to you, where I'm okay, now I do believe in life coaching if it's paired with some form of real expertise or real subject matter expertise. like, okay, they're not just some life coach that's going to tell me how to get a Ferrari and a yacht and all that and
just
chase
live
my
on the
dreams.
beach and just do it. Yeah, just change your mindset. That's it all.
Change your mindset. So, talk
Yeah.
about that. As you dived into it, what was part of the coaching training? You literally said your educational background in regards to ABA. What was some of the training that you had to do for the coaching part?
Yeah, so I'm not a licensed coach by any means. I have not gone through any life coaching certification classes. I have leaned hard into my behavior analysis training and experience in that area. And so what I did increase in terms of education is taking more classes and working with people with in the area of acceptance and commitment therapy. So that's called ACT, ACT, acceptance and commitment therapy, sometimes referred to as acceptance and commitment training. And this was developed by a behavior scientist in the 1980s, really researched into the 90s, and it is becoming really huge. And it was based on a functional approach to language. It is very in line with behavior analysis. The main goal of ACT is to increase your psychological flexibility, so you're more ready to respond to what happens in your life. So there are 6 core processes of ACT. The main message of it is to accept what's out of your control, and then you're committing to the action that's improving your life. So that's where the acceptance and commitment, kind of the two top ones out of those 6 processes that fall under there. So I just fell in love with studying ACT, and they say it is a practice, right? And that is so true. So you say that you are practicing ACT, right? It is a lifelong practice of using these behavioral strategies to improve your life, right? And it's to show that you can improve the happiness that you feel without trying to be happy all the time. So that's like kind of the first thing we go over is like, working with myself as a coach, the goal is not to say, I'm going to change your whole life and you're going to be happy all the time, because that's like 100% unrealistic. So that first acceptance part in ACT is recognizing that like you're alive, you're human, you're going to accept that you're going to have all the feelings. You can't stop feelings from happening. You can't stop your thoughts from happening. And so just opening up to those experiences and thoughts is the first step, is saying that like, I'm going to have the really crappy days and feelings, and I'm going to have the most amazing, like, the best days of my life. And I'm going to experience everything in the middle. And so accepting that that's going to be okay. And there are, the 5 other processes are contacting the present moment. So that's really in line with mindfulness. Exactly. Like paying more attention, being present, right? Being here in the now. Diffusion is where we are diffusing from our thoughts. We're kind of paying attention to our thoughts. And that goes kind of hand in hand with something that we call flexible perspective taking, where we're recognizing that we are more than our thoughts and feelings, right? You have thoughts, you have feelings, right? You feel feelings, you think thoughts, you do actions, right? But you are, more than just that. You are more than what your mind is telling yourself. So as a behavior analyst, this was really interesting because in so much of our training, we are taught to pay attention to the observable, the behaviors we can see and measure, right? I'm sure that was drilled into you at ABTS, right? What can you see? What can you measure? What are we collecting data on? We're only
tallies.
Right? What can we see? What can we see? So this is a way to use behavior analysis with our internal behaviors, right? Those covert behaviors are thoughts and feelings. And of course, like I can only attend to them, but I can also then, vocally share or track them in certain ways, or work with a coach to go through what I am thinking and feeling and practicing things. So the two of the other big areas are values. So this is something that I lean hard into at the very beginning of my coaching and really throughout it. But it's just like kind of where the reason that I got into this was, paying attention to what matters and what I don't want, knowing what I don't want to do and what I do want to do. So this is huge when working with moms, because we tend to think about other people so much more, especially when our people are really little and we're taking care of them for so many hours of the day. So really knowing what matters to you, what kind of person you want to do, what kind of person you want to be, what you want your life to look like. There's all kinds of exercises that we go through, strategies that we use to implement these practices. again, it's a practice like throughout, each day and each week. I love it. I mean, it's a practice. I practice it every day, and it's not just it's not something that I just do. And, I've seen results in professional life. It's something that I practice actively in my personal life. This summer, actually, I just started last week. I'm doing an 8-week moms cohort for this summer that I'm absolutely adoring. I'm loving the group of moms that are in that, and they are all women who are interested in, improving their life, but also learning these strategies, what they can do through the rest of their life, not just for the summer, not just when their kids are little or when they're getting older, but how can they, pay attention more to themselves. It's like putting yourself as a mom back into your decision making. I'm sure you may see that in your household with, like who does mom take care of the most, right? Other people, and not always putting yourself first. And it's not even about just putting yourself first. It's not about like, being more selfish and that kind of like cliche self-care kind of stuff. It's like actual self-care, like on all levels of your world, right? Not just, your physical health or, taking yourself out for a treat every once in a while. It's really like wholehearted self-care, on an emotional level, on a physical level, on all of your, whether you're, spiritual or, social levels, all of these kind of filling up all these buckets. So you really can feel that that's true self-care.
I love it. And one of the things I'm thinking about, well, I have two things. One thought is like in regards to the flexibility is the importance of resilience. You know what I'm saying? Resilience in this. Can you talk about that before I go to my next thought? It's like how important, resilience, right? The flexibility, emotional flexibility, but also like the fact that you just said it, life is hard, life has suffering. That's not avoidable, but resilience, it's in that journey, right? That you can, talk about the importance for moms to be resilient.
Yeah, absolutely. So moms, we're really bad at taking care of ourselves first. And it's very true that we need to take care of ourselves well to take care of others, just as well. And so knowing that, again, getting back to that, you're not going to be happy all the time. Every day is not going to be a 10, and understanding that and accepting that. And what we focus on is responding to your thoughts and feelings more than reacting to them, right? So it's having that plan of, I know when I'm feeling this way, it's okay. And it's going to pass. And I know what I can learn from it for next time, or, whether we're looking back and making plans for, I know when I felt, whether it's, super anxious or depressed or angry at yourself or upset or anything, we look at the situations, the times day, like what, all the kind of the background that's going into when those things are happening, just like we would do in behavior analysis anyways, and then make that plan for the future. I think that a lot of practice and strategies in ACT are really cheesy, but I like to say that is why it works, because it kind of like makes you like kind of almost like laugh at some of the exercises also, because they sound a little bit cheesy, but that makes it, I think, easier to implement as well. So yeah, when it comes to being resilient as a mom, you're caring for others, you need to be, strong for others as well as for yourself. And it's what I want my, the moms I work with, I want them to get more enjoyment out of their life, even when they're in the hardest days of parenting. And what my biggest thing is, it's not wait until their children are grown and have left, and then they're sitting there like, well, now what, right? Like now my kids are, or even when they're in high school and they need you less. There's definitely these different stages of parenthood, motherhood, and they're going to need you in different ways. It's just going to look differently, right? You're not driving them around as much, or, caring for their every little need like we do so much these days when, our kids are this age and preschool up through elementary age. But preparing for those transitions. So you know who you are as a mom, as a person, as a wife, as a friend, as a woman, as all the different areas that you kind of can categorize your life into. So that's a lot of the activities that we do when we were doing value work, is look at, when it comes to, Kristin as the business owner, Kristin as the wife, Kristin as the friend, Kristin as the mother, Kristin as the daughter, as the sister, as the neighbor, as the whatever, all these different labels that we have ourselves. Maybe we're like, kicking butt in one area and like we are not taking care of ourselves in another area. And that's what I want to kind of even the playing field a little bit more. So they're actually getting enjoyment out of their life. So when the kids are going through those transitions, needing you less, or actually leaving the house, you still know at your core that who you are and what you want your life to look back on, and to say that, I was making these decisions because I cared a lot about being, a present mother, or, a responsible business owner, or, a loving parent, a caring spouse, whatever these descriptions you can put in for those core values. And that's what we want to be as, the cheesiness of that guiding light, right? That's your North Stars that you're kind of like striving to be. We focus a lot on the values not being like a checklist, something to do. So they're different than goals. So I'm sure that, I know you're goal oriented, you have so many goals and things that you strive for, but if that's all you're doing, right, then you're just like checking something off. Okay, what's next, right? Checking something off, what's next? But we want to like, enjoy the journey also, kind of like putting that like enjoyment and doing it. Like I'm doing this because I love this and I want to be a good
be impactful. Yeah, be impactful. Yeah. I mean, I do the cheesy stuff all the time. Like I do the vision boards and all that.
Yeah.
And writing the letters to myself. I do that. And you're right. Like when I got out of my own head about calling it cheesy and think of it as practitioners or practicing, yeah, it's still cheesy, but like I found the value because it's actually an action, right? So like I've trained myself to do my journaling and gratitude as a practice. Yeah. I trained myself to do my vision board, which is behind me somewhere. I trained myself. And then, but then it does align with it, right? It's not just now, goals are not just checklists. It's like also like, I can see the macro part, but I can also see how it contributes to the impact. Like I want to be impactful at Mason, but then my little goals and stuff contribute to that. So
exactly. And we get so individualized. Again, as a behavior analyst, we are, all we're doing, we want to define things. We want to get this operational definition. We want to know what it's going to look like. And so, you say like being impactful, like that's a perfect example of like, a value of yours. And in your professional life, I want to be impactful. I want to make an impact, right? But to you, right, that may look different than what it would look like to me or like to 10 other people at Mason, right? Because making an impact, it's going to look like how you define it. So that's how we individualize those values. And so again, what me as a present mom looks like is going to be different than like 10 other neighbors, right? Or, 10 other moms that I talk to and say, what does that look like for you? Because it's going to be a spectrum. But it's to be a present mom, that means to me, I am at the bus stop, as many days as I can, and I'm available for homework, or I'm this or that. And like you fill in the blank with what you're actually going to do. What does that look like to be present? Not what the internet says to be a present mom, you need to do this, or, or feeling guilty about anyone else. And that's where the confidence increase comes in from, especially for us as moms, to say, I'm confident in myself as a mom because I know that the decisions I'm making are based on those core values of what kind of mom I want to be. Or I'm confident in, the kind of friend I am, or again, whatever kind of like, hat you want to put on, because I know the decisions I'm making are coming from, that core value of like that person that I'm striving to be. We do these, again, the cheesy, like the eulogy exercises, right? Looking at the end of our life. Yeah. I'm sure you've done that, right? Like, how would you want other people to describe you? What did they, they're going to say that, Philip made this impact on me. He always made me feel fill in the blank. I could tell he cared about this and this and this. Those are the words that we want to use to guide our decisions as we move forward. So that's my super goal, that out of, for this coaching with moms is to, give them an improved life, but it's not my life. It's their life. It's an improved, like in their world. It's just giving them these tools and strategies that are truly based in science. And again, getting back to like, they're not just change your mindset. We're not changing your mind. That's a huge area of ACT that we say you're not going to change your mind. You're not changing your mind. You're not stopping your feelings. You're making room for them. You're saying, hey, I noticed I'm feeling really depressed right now. Or I noticed that like this morning, I know I was very angry at something that happened with my kids this morning. You're making room for that. You're not going to try and stomp that feeling down because, like all those exercises that say like, oh, don't think about, right, an elephant, right? All you can think about is the elephant, right? It's the same thing with any thought or feeling that pops up. We want to be able to notice it because that way it's going to move on eventually, right? And, we want to make room, accept it, and say, it's happening. I am more than that feeling. I am more than that thought. I'm noticing it's happening. And that's one of the diffusion techniques, is just to use that simple phrase instead of saying like, I am a horrible mom today. I'm noticing that I'm feeling like I'm a horrible mom today. Just like taking that one step back. So you're not like, again, labeling yourself, I am this. You're saying like, I noticed I had that thought. I noticed I'm having this feeling. And that's just that first step of diffusing from like, we're just paying attention to our thinking. We can't control what's happening in that, crazy mind of ours, but it's going to happen. So we want to take a step back from it.
So, I mean, I know this sounds super simplistic, but I heard about like I think about this, right? Was it thoughts? No, thoughts become actions, actions become behaviors over time, and behaviors over time become habits. Maybe it's somewhere in the wrong way, right? Like,
yeah, no, it sounds about right.
Number one, you got to think about it and then do it over and over and over again because it becomes a pattern, and then the pattern becomes something you do. Oh yeah, then habits become being, right? Like if I do this habit, then
it just becomes part of your routine,
being, right? Yeah. So like I think about it, right? Like the thought is, I'm a kind person. Then I practice kindness. Then I do it over and over again habitually. Then thus I am kind. I become kind, right? What is your thoughts when I just said that in that order, and how does that work into the ACT mindset?
Yeah, I mean, because creating new habits is a huge part of ACT. And so it is all about recognizing what changes you want to make in your life. So that's like where we would start off is, at the beginning of any kind of coaching process is, where are you today? And, if we are working together for a month, 2 months, whatever it is, like where do you want to be at the end of that, right? Like what area of your life are you struggling the most in, and what are we going to focus on? So that's kind of what we want to kind of zoom into. And then we want to look at what are the actual, like the behaviors that have to change to create those habits. I'm huge on being realistic. Whether it's, when I was working in home with kids or, parents or moms or anyone, because change is hard. You have to like put some effort into change. It's not going to happen overnight. That's why I say it is a practice. The ACT philosophy is a practice that you have to, attend to every day, and through your, like you said, the more you do it, the more it becomes a habit and routine. But it does take some effort at the beginning. And that's part of that committed action, the acceptance and commitment, part of it is doing what it takes. And those can be really small steps. So with the people I work with, I want to look at like what, kind of getting back to the science part of it, like what's your baseline? Where are you right now? What are you doing? You can't expect to be doing something completely different, do a full 180 in like 5 days, right? Or even like a month maybe, but like what are those small steps that you can take to create those new habits? So we do want to collect, some realistic data. I'm going to make fancy data sheets or anything like that, but in some kind of tracking method to say, how much are you doing it right now? What's your, how much would you like to be doing it, and why? So that's a huge part of the creating the goals. Why do you want to change? And so one practice that we do is like keep asking yourself why. So if I say I want to, whether it's an exercise thing or be more present with my kid, or like I want to do something, I want to change something out of my life, I want to do this differently at work maybe, or in my life or in my relationship, then why? And then you have your first layer answer, right? And then again, why? And keep asking yourself why until you get back to that core value of, because doing that is going to make me a better, or the more present parent that I'm striving to be, or the more responsible business owner, or the more compassionate parent, or the more whatever. So that's our reason at the end of creating that new habit or that change in behavior. I want you to get to that value, kind of the end goal of keep asking yourself why. Why do you want to do that? Why do you want to do that? And if it's always kind of the superficial, like, oh, because I just want, my life to be better. Why? Like, what is going to be better about that? How is it going to improve your life? And is it actually going to improve your life? Or is it what, society is telling you should do to improve your life? Because that's one of the main reasons that people don't achieve goals, is that they're not actually aligned with your values. They're more of, I should do this better, or I should do this less or more often or differently, instead of saying, I'm doing this because that's going to make me be that impactful, employee at Mason. That's why I'm doing this. This is why I'm striving to make these changes, or this is why I'm striving to change this, because I want to be that kind of parent, colleague, friend. Again, fill in the blank with whatever area of life you're striving to change. So a lot of what we do is like accountability stuff also, is like figuring out, how can you track those habits? How can I help you track them? What kind of accountability are you looking for? What level? And then, how can we make sure that you're actually following through with those things? Because it's hard.
Excellent. One of the things I thought about, you brought it up, is like, the cultural competence of this. Like, not for every mom that they need to eat dinner at the table. That's not how they grew up. So can you talk to the importance about that cultural competence in this, right? Like the separate identities, and maybe even your examples, like working with kind of moms. Have you had some diverse moms and that shows up like, this is what I thought a mom does as a presenting white female. I work with a different mom is different, a Black mom or a Muslim mom or something like that. So can you talk about how you had to like pivot and make ACT or your coaching adaptable to different cultures?
Yeah, absolutely. And it goes back to, all my training in doing like in-home services. It's first and foremost, like what's important to you. Like that's what we wanted to ask, whether we're working with their child, is when we're trying to, I can do any kind of, verbal behavior assessment or, any kind of, functional behavior assessment with their child. But that's just what I see and what's on paper, what they should learn. But again, what is important to their household, to their family, same thing. Like when I'm working with a mom, like what is important to you? And again, asking them that why, not because I do it. So that coaching is not of like me saying, I think you should do this, right? Or I have the answers for you here. I can give you the tools to help you determine what is important to you, but I'm not going to tell you what's important to you. We can have these conversations and do these exercises and, tools to help determine what is important to you and how to put these things into practice. But everyone's household looks different. Everyone's family looks different. Everyone's mind is different. And that is one thing that I've realized, though, no matter, the different types of moms you're coaching, you kind of realize, how you are not alone in your struggles, how, we kind of, how similar my struggles are to others, what others experience, no matter, the superficial differences. We're often so consumed by what our own minds tell us. We're kind of convinced that we're like on this island of problems alone, right? And that we're alone in it and that our problems are different from other people's problems. But, and then the details they are, like everyone's, specific lives look differently, but, at the, kind of at the surface level, the struggles tend to be the same of like, I don't feel like I'm doing enough, comparing yourself to others. I'm just not doing enough. I'm just enough. Today it seems always to be like enough. We're never doing enough. That seems to be such a common mom problem, or being on autopilot. I'm not making decisions based on what I actually want to do. It's just kind of life is happening and I'm on this like hamster wheel and autopilot and just, all the things you can describe it as is just going with the flow instead of taking that, contacting that present moment, being mindful in your decisions and saying like, doesn't matter what they're doing, doesn't matter what they're doing in my household, in my mind, this is important to me. This is important to my children or my colleagues. Doesn't matter how they're acting. I want to behave in this way because it's going to make me this fill in the blank kind of person. So it as a coach, like I want, one of my values is to be very open and compassionate to whomever I work with, because I want them to see me as completely non-judgmental. And that's something that I actively practice in my personal and professional life. Because I want them to know that they're not my values that I want to impart on you. They're your values that I want to help you live better. I want to help you be more confident in making the decisions based on your own values, because no one's choosing like a negative value, right? When we look at these example like checklists, they're all positive, adjectives. They're all like great descriptions of life. So no one's saying like, I want to be a worse this or this, that, I want to be a this. So they're all these positive descriptions. Again, it's just how you're defining it. So it's, I want to be compassionate this, I want to be loving this, I want to be, exciting this, energetic this. Okay, what does that look like? Your energetic looks different than my energetic, right? So tell me more about that. So it's equally me sharing these tips and strategies and you telling me what your life looks like and then what you want it to look like, and me kind of helping make sure that they're in alignment, like what you want, with what you have right now.
That's excellent. One of the things, and it's my last question, is how have you, while coaching change for other mothers, have implemented change for yourself?
Yeah. So like I said, I actively practice ACT. It is something that I have instituted in my life. I am definitely more aware of my thoughts and feelings. I am much better at recognizing when I have a thought and separating from it. Again, it's always a practice. It's never like, perfect again, because it's not to make it, to not say that I am good at stopping it. I am better at letting it sit and linger and letting it, have its time and move on, and then making a plan from there. I think always having in the back of my mind the kind of parent, spouse, partner, business, business owner, friend that I want to be, kind of having those in the back of my mind has really increased my confidence in decision making. Even I think the biggest area is probably in work. It's so easy as a self-employed business owner to, you're only accountable to yourself, right? Or whomever you bring into the picture with you. But recognizing like what is important to me, to be that business owner, to be the employer, to be, the person that's not answering to, anyone else in the company. What's important to me to make those decisions each day, whether it's, what tasks to do, what to focus on, what to get done first or last. And balancing that with what kind of parent I want to be and what kind of spouse that I want to be, because all those decisions affect each other, right? So in the moment I do have to, and I focus on saying, it is important to me to be a present parent and to be able to, volunteer in field day and like take a morning off, during the week, because that is just as important, if not more important, than getting, this task done that I know I could do later that night or do something else like that. And that's the flexibility that's awesome as being a business owner, right? But it is, you increase your hours of your operation, right? Because it's hard to turn it off. But knowing why I'm making those decisions each day, I think it's definitely, it kind of like relieves you of a little bit of stress of like wondering why you made that decision, because I know that they're founded in the reasons that like I want to be, because I want to be that person, because I'm acting based on what really is important in my life. So whether, that's relationships, I think it helps me focus on that a lot. Attending to, if I'm having thoughts about something or feelings about something, that I recognize like, all right, is this helping me really? Is this improving my life? I'm noticing that I'm feeling this way, but like, that's not really, moving me forward. That's not making me, move toward my goals. It's not making me move toward the life that I want to live. So let's see that in this moment, like when it comes up next time, or in these situations that I'm recognizing I'm feeling this way, how can I change that for the better next time, or respond differently, right? We're responding instead of like reacting or trying to shove that feeling down.
I love it. Well, this is the part of the show called Shot for Shot. You get to ask me any random question. I ask you any random question. You want to go first? I'll go first.
You go first. I think it's something to ask you.
Okay. What is your favorite Mason moment? Because you went to Mason.
Oh gosh. Oh my goodness. My favorite Mason moment.
I also got another question too. Favorite Mason moment, and how much has the university changed since you've been there? Those two questions.
Well, okay, I'll go. The change, I mean, I haven't been there in a long time, actually. Since we moved down here 8 years ago, I think we've only been to like 1 or 2 basketball games. I'd say some of my favorite Mason moments actually happened after I was at Mason, because my husband went to Mason. He went to Mason for grad school as well. And then we had a kind of a group of diehard basketball fans. And so we had season tickets for a few years before we moved away. And so those were some of like the most fun times, kind of post school, like post grad school, going back, having, the means to have those season tickets. Good, like we just had like a good core group of people who would, go to Richmond every year for the tournament. Like those were just some of the like the most fun times. Actually, one time when I was still in grad school, I came back with some friends from grad school, and we came back for the tournament. So we were in Richmond, and we were in the student section, just because we had like gone down, whatever, even though we weren't currently Mason students. And I was picked because we were sitting in like the back row to do one of the free throw contests at one of the like timeouts. And I have never played basketball in my entire life. Softball player, swimmer, tennis player, never done anything with basketball. And so I went out there and I made one shot. And the other girl made none. So I went away as the victor. But I was so funny because I was convinced I just made one and I ran off so embarrassed. And they were like, you won. She didn't make any of them because she's on the other side of the court, so I couldn't see what she was doing. So I won like 30 gift cards for free, like Hardee's thick burgers. Totally random, like something that I like, oh my God, again, I wasn't when I was going to Mason, but like affiliated with Mason. One of my happiest times. But we're overdue for coming up for some more basketball games because only Kurt has been. Actually Zora, no, I think the last time we went was when my daughter was a baby, so it's been like 6 years probably since we've been up there for a game.
Well, we have to make that happen. We have to link because I'm the unofficial mayor of Mason, so I get some tickets sometimes. I get some tickets randomly, so we'll make that happen.
Yeah, I know. We got to plan for a homecoming next year or something, and have all the kids.
I love it.
It'll be fun.
All right, what's your question for me?
Okay, well, I could go back since you went back. I'm going to go back to when we started at APTS. What advice do you think you would give old Ill Phil working there about his time there or where he was headed?
Well, I mean, sheesh. I don't know, man. When I was there, I was how old was I? I don't know, 2008. I was 23 or something.
Right out of college, yeah.
I was a mess. I was a hot like I was still. We were still like that. Was it room 204? The 204 was like legit memories. It's like the most ratchet room ever. And I wouldn't change any of it. I think I would. I would just, if I could talk to that person, I would just say, like, to that person, you're going to be much more than what you think you are. I didn't have, I think, the confidence in myself as a professional. I didn't think that what I thought came natural to me was anything special. Like the fact that I could talk to anybody, I didn't think that was a skill. I just like being myself.
Yeah.
Or, I wish I could have just tapped in and said, hey, like, it is good that you're able to talk to anybody, or that you're patient, or that I think about this now in my memories, like these experiences, APTS is going to make you a better dad. Like, no offense to all the kids there, but I was like, when I had my 2 kids, I remember day one was like, at least this kid is like going to be able to hang out with me and talk about Pokemon cards. I saw the kids that had the communication issues. And so I'm already like thinking my kids is the most gifted kids ever because of my shaping of parenting was really ingrained in that. And so I would have told myself, like, think of this as like, you're going to be on the bigger and better things, but also understand that like you're good at stuff and not everyone could do that job, or not everyone's patient, or not everyone. I think that job made me incredibly resilient, right? Like being able to like have a sense of humor with really hard stuff. That built that hard, I think that hard, thick skin, right? Like being able to like take a kid cussing me out and like turn it into a funny story that I tell all the time now, right? Like that's resilience. And I still actually use that. Like I'm able to like take really difficult conversations and have a sense of humor. I think that was groomed at APTS. I would have told myself at 23, just do your thing, but understand that this experience is going to make you a better person. And randomly, you're going to tap into the things that the things that you got here, or the experiences are going to randomly benefit you later that you did not know about it.
Yeah. We all grow up so much from 23, huh?
Yeah. And like I said, I didn't know. When I got a job, I only got a job because Justin put me on. Like,
everyone is always connected. Everyone has a connection.
Yeah.
It was, how do you know this?
And that was also that reaffirms me now, like the power of just having good relationships, my friendships, how I wouldn't have been at APTS if I didn't have good friendships. So that's a skill, that's networking, but I didn't think of it like that, right? I was
exactly.
My boy put me on to the job, so.
And that's so much what I have realized, like whether it's watching my husband and his, side of the business, or, my own stuff, like networking is so much just, it's who you know, but being friends with people and maintaining those relationships.
Maintaining relationships. Yeah. And also one of the things I thought about too is that that I would have told myself too, is that the importance part though, is that because one of my friends put me on and I did a good job, I didn't burn a bridge or make it awkward for them. So I usually tell these students now is that tap into your network, but understand that once your network helps you out, that you have a level of accountability, because they're not going to put you on to more opportunities if you embarrass them.
Yes.
Or, like if I went to APTS and was trash, I don't think Justin would have been happy with me, right? So
or he would have never tried to help you out again.
Or help me out again. He'd be like, no, Phil's unreliable, or I can't do it. But like, you know, I barely remember. You know, remember I got like, do you remember I got employee of the month at APTS? Like, what am I doing getting employee of the month? Rashad gave it to me just because he was nice. The point is,
I'm sure you did something well. You were showing up on time. You were doing the work.
Oh, no, I was doing something more just that. I was nice. The point is, like, that helped. Now Justin was like, yo, my man, I can put him on. He'll be a good representative. So I think that would have been the thing I told myself. I said, don't minimize it. Really enjoy this experience and realize that this experience, while I won't do it again, I'll do it only once. It made me a better person. So shout out to APTS for making me a better person.
It got you where you are today, right?
Shout out to them. I ain't gonna work for
them
them again. I tell you that right now. But I appreciate it.
It got you back to Mason.
Yeah, exactly. So shout out to them.
Made those connections.
All right. So this is the part of the show called shout outs and plugs. So shout out, show love to anyone you want to show love to, and then plugs. These are the things that you're working on. All that I'll put them in the show notes so that those that are listening can follow up with you. Shout outs and plugs.
Shout outs and plugs. I shout out my husband, Marco, first and foremost. Unending support, great role model of being a great partner and business owner. And you mentioned vision boards. He is like the king of vision boards. He has had literally a bulletin board on our bedroom for longer than we've been married. So over a decade now of his goals and aspirations. So that helps me moving forward also. And he has a great example for having the vision and moving towards that vision. I wouldn't be here, talking about moms without my two wonderful little kids. As much as they drive me crazy, I know that's part of it, and I love them to death. And I really do enjoy being their mom. And it's a huge part of my values and who I am. Other shout outs, I just want, there's two women that I worked really closely alongside the past couple of years, fellow behavior analysts, Ting Bentley and Robin Moyer, who are also practicing in Virginia. And we kind of created an awesome little cohort of learning and practicing ACT together. So we've really grown professionally and personally together. So I don't think I'd be as far along as I am now without their support and modeling. Plugs. So my website for coaching is just my name, KristinFrigeli.com. So you can put that in. It's Frigel with a J at the end just to confuse people. But so I have all the links on there if you ever want to reach out for, I always do a free 30-minute coaching call for anyone who's just interested in chatting to see if what I can offer would be a good fit. So there's a link to scheduling that. On all the social media stuff, I'm also just my name, Kristin Frigeli, on Instagram and Facebook, LinkedIn, all of those things. Right now I'm in the middle of a summer cohort, an 8-week summer cohort for moms, and it is going really well. I'm loving it. I'm getting some really good feedback. So I'm hopeful to do that a couple times a year, maybe in the future, maybe another fall or spring one coming up. So if that is interested, if you're interested in more of a community coaching, I think that is what I got a lot of feedback on, talking to people that maybe weren't ready for one-on-one coaching, but they loved the aspect of sitting in. It's all virtual, so you're not going to go anywhere. It's still, we do it over a lunch hour once a week. So it's a mix of, sharing our struggles, learning these strategies, but together and really having that supportive community. So I think that is a whole nother amazing layer to the coaching, to do it in a group format. So right now I have 7 amazing moms I'm doing it with. So if anyone's interested in that, you can shoot me a message for a future season of that. I look forward to that.
Well, excellent. Well, it's great. I'll put all that in the show notes. Thank you so much for being a wonderful guest. This is, I don't know if this is a long time coming, but it is. Our reunion is a long time coming.
I know.
We linked up before you moved. I remember that. Remember we linked up before
I
you
have
moved
one
down
picture of when Bennett and Kurt, I think they were sitting on your couch, and they were,
yes.
Kurt is a little bit older than Bennett, but they were still,
I think it was 2 years old. So
not even younger, because we moved when Kurt was 9 months. And I think he was, when was Bennett born? What month?
February.
Yeah, I think it was that spring. I think he was really little. I think that was the last time we were together then.
Oh my! So we're long overdue.
So it's 8 years.
You gotta come up this way, or come
I know the kids would have a great time together. Yes.
And so Or I got to link up when I'm down there because I go down there sometime to the Tidewater.
Oh my
But
God.
this
Absolutely.
been great. I took lots of notes. So you thought I wasn't paying attention. I took lots of notes. I did take lots of notes, and I really appreciate it. And I learned so much about what you're doing, and I subscribe to your newsletter. So I love to read all those things from time to time. So thank you so much for putting out good energy and good content. And just also, I definitely, like you said, vibe with all the things in the infusion of well-being and the work you're doing. So for those that are listening, especially moms, please check out Kristin's resources. I'll put all those in the show notes. Obviously, there's things that are even applicable. If you're a dad out there and you just want to scope it, do it like me and still subscribe anyway, because it might make you a better husband to your wives or partners. I make no assumptions.
Absolutely.
Partners, whatever you want to say, but definitely support that. Positive Filter listeners, thank you for listening to this episode. The podcast with every episode is dedicated to the memory of my late father-in-law, Jeff Kirsch. So please consider donating to the Jeff Kirsch Anti-Hunger Fund. It's in the show notes of every episode in his memory and for all the work that he did to combat food insecurity in his career. Additionally, please share this episode with a family member or friend. Elevate the podcast. Give it a like, subscribe, a review on Apple or Spotify. That helps elevate the voice of the podcast. Thank you so much for listening. So grateful. And we're out. Thank you for listening to Positive Filter, a podcast that focuses on family, friends, career, with a little self-help along the way. If you enjoyed this podcast, please share it with your family and friends, and like the Facebook page, Spreading Positivity of Movement. Thanks for listening.